Thing.
Hi, everyone. I'd like you to put yourself on mute. And if there are questions that we allow you to, if we allow you to ask questions afterwards, we will unmute you. But please put yourselves on mute. There's a lot of people joining us, and we will hear a lot of background noise if everyone is not on mute. Thank you very much. Okay, the other technical thing here is that at the bottom, for those not familiar with Zoom, though I think by now, this point in the corona crisis, everyone is probably familiar with Zoom, but if you're not, at the bottom, there is a sort of a toolbar that comes up, and one of the options is chat. If you have a question, please press on chat, write the question. You have the option of asking me the question or everybody the question, or me and Danny and Benjamin. I will introduce them both shortly, who are the admins, and you can ask us questions. The session is also recorded. It's going to be about half an hour, and we are open and looking to do, we'll probably do other sessions if there is need in the coming week or two. Okay, so first of all, refuah shlema to anyone who is sick. That's the crisis, is the health crisis. The financial crisis is obviously secondary to it. And I just want to wish everyone that they stay healthy. And okay, let's get started. So what we're going to do is each one of us are going to give a couple of tips, and then we'll allow time for questions. Who are us? Okay, this is the first time that the Living Financially Smarter team has actually gone from behind the scenes of Facebook and being hidden and actually being shown live. I've done a live before, but the other two have not. So first of all, I just want to welcome Danny Newman, who is an incredible insurance agent. I will unmute you, Danny, just so you could say hello.
Thanks. Hi everyone.
And then we have Benjamin Radomski, also on the team. Benjamin is an accountant at Abu Lafia, and we'll be able to give you some tips for this period of time. So I'm going to start with some of my tips, and then we'll move on to theirs. So the few tips I want to share is, first of all, there was a lot of questions on the Facebook group about what the grant for self-employed people is going to be. The grant was announced last week, but they didn't give details. This afternoon, I got details finally. They announced the details. I uploaded them on the document where I wrote it was a very detailed article of all the different rights, people that are being unemployed, people that are being put on leave, and now freelancers can get. Please look there for the details. They're technical. You got to be over this age, under this age, whatever. They're technical, so we're not going to get into them here, but they are written there. So first of all, check that out. Second of all, I think it's very important. A lot of people sort of going to give tips on two ends here. A lot of people are like, okay, what do I do now? And sort of there's a panic. So to answer that, number one, make a plan. Have a plan. I was looking over somebody's budget in the last week with them, and there's a bit of a panic, and I'm just like, let's just break down how much you're going to be spending less. You're not going out, you're not having cleaning help, you're not going in a car, whatever it is, how much less, how much unemployment you're expected to get. Will it match up? Know what that gap is if there's a gap, so you're not panicking about the whole thing rather than just where the gap is. That's first of all. The second tip I'd like to give is, remember, this is short term. We don't know how long it's going to be, nobody knows, but we're not going to be in this situation forever. We're going to go back to being a country with economic growth. We're going to go back to being a country, I mean, things might shift slightly, but we're going to go back to wanting to go out, to wanting to go to work, to wanting to create. There are still opportunities, there are still even jobs out there. So please, please remember that this is short term. Whatever that means, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, a year, I don't know, but it is short term, and we will get back to that positive place we were in until now. Israel was a great place of growth until this happened, and I'm just wishing that everybody gets back to that good place as soon as possible. I'm going to hand over to Danny Newman now to give a few tips. Danny.
Okay, hi everyone. You can hear me, Rivka, and everyone? Okay, so there are so many things that one can look at in the world of insurance. Most people tend to say that it's not to make a panic decision. So I'm not going to go into every single piece, because otherwise we would be here more than 4 or 5 Zoom sessions, and everyone tends to have a different insurance portfolio. So I'm going to give 2 tips, just where everyone can look into different things. The first thing is that the majority of people tend to have some form of home insurance, be it covering their contents, if there were renters insurance, or a structure insurance, or a combination of both. There are different things that some people can initially look at to try and trim down the costs without improvising the coverage that you have. The first thing which one can look at is the majority of people tend to, without even being aware of it, have the standard Hishtafut Atzmit. In English, that's excess. In non-English, that tends to be known as a deductible, or the copay that one would pay on a claim. Depending on the insurance companies, most of them tend to be between 400 to 600 shekel. Now, there is an option with a lot of companies to increase the deductible excess or Hishtafut Atzmit, whereby you can reduce slightly the premium. Now, obviously, if someone's paying minimum premium already, then you can't really reduce it. But if people have larger insurance plans, by taking a higher deductible, Hishtafut Atzmit or excess, you have the option of reducing your premiums. That's the first thing. The second thing with regards to home insurance is if anyone's insuring jewelry. Jewelry tends to be the item that pushes up the premium. And a lot of people, not a lot of people, but some people may have items that they may have inherited and have some form of sentimental value. This would now be a good opportunity to look through the coverage. For example, I inherited my late grandfather's wedding ring. I took that off insurance. Why? Because to be stolen, as sad as and upsetting as it, I would never take the insurance money, buy another ring, and say to my elder son, this is like a ring that your great grandfather, who you're named after, used to wear. So if you're not necessarily going to replace it, that's another opportunity to be able to reduce premiums if you're holding pieces of jewelry that you don't mind taking off insurance, or sentimental pieces that you would never be able to you'd never be able to replace. 2 other things for people who are homeowners: if you've insured at market value, maybe it's an opportunity during this period to reduce it to rebuild value. I won't go into too much details on that because not everyone here is a homeowner. If you want, I will put a link on the thread to an article which in English, which explains the difference between the 2. Don't want to take too much time up now. And the other thing is for certain people who may have a private plumber option on their policy, which costs more, to maybe at this time, if you're looking to cut down the cost, to reduce it to the insurance company's plumber. Not necessarily as good as a private plumber option, but may certainly save some money for those people looking to trim things down. Those are certain tips with regards to home insurance. The other tip which I would, some people may know about, and it's been mentioned many times on the group, there is a government site called Har Bituach. This is the link. I would also put it through. There's a website, harb.cma.gov.il. And when you go into that website, you will get a page which looks something like, looks like this. There will be various things, and where I've highlighted, you click on that, and it will come up with a window on that page with some various areas. And you put in your Tudat Zahut number, Tarikh Hanpaka, the date it was issued, that will be written on your Tudat Zahut number. And then there's 2 questions. Have you had a new passport in the past 3 years? Yes, no. Have you left Israel in the last 3 years? Yes, no. Then there's a number which will come up, which to prove you're not a bot, you tick the section, and then you click here. If you're a brand new Oleh, your details may not be on the site yet, but the majority of people will be there, and you will see a list of all your insurances registered under your Tudat Zahut number. I've come across clients in the past who've unknowingly have been double insured, which people should do anyway, but this gives us an opportunity to reassess things and maybe check if you're double insured, and then to speak to your insurance agent to see if they can help you. If you don't have an insurance agent, then I or various other agents who are on the group will be more than happy to assist. But those would be the two tips. Look at the home insurance, which most people have, and definitely everyone should go onto the Habituach website, and the link's already been put on in the comments as well, but we'll also put it onto the Facebook page as well. Those are my two tips for now. I guess back to you, Rivka, or over to Binyamin.
Okay, thank you, Danny. As Danny said, I put the link to Habituach on the chat so everybody could see it. And it's certainly something at this time, and as Danny said, at any time, but certainly now, to just double check if you've double insured. Anyway, let's move on to Binyamin, and here's some accounting tips.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Nice to meet you all, albeit virtually. Just to echo what Rivka said at the beginning, obviously the most important thing is that you stay safe, stay healthy, and anyone who has been affected recovers speedily, and hopefully this time next year we'll look back fondly at the times when we spent Pesach alone, and we'll be able to celebrate again with our families. Okay, I'm going to touch on a couple of tips and announcements that have come through from the government, which are designed to help people through this difficult period. Regarding the grant that was announced for self-employed people. So last night, Moshe Kahlon, the finance minister, soon to be ex-finance minister, announced a slightly enhanced package. He said that the grant would be for up to 6,000 shekel for March and up to 8,000 shekel for April. The guidelines, some of them have been leaked. They've been discussing it in the Knesset and in the finance committee all day. So what Rivka mentioned, those are what have been leaked. It's likely to change a little bit. Obviously, as and when there are final guidelines and rules put into place, those will be announced, and then we will try and put them all together, put them into English for you, and post those so that everyone knows exactly where they stand. What is likely to happen, the rumors that we're hearing, is that it will not be done through your accountants. You'll have to do it yourself. You'll have to set up a login via the tax authority's website, which I believe is up and reasonably available. I will try and find that site for you and get that up in the group. What you'll need in order to log in and get yourself a code so that you can see your specific system is your Taudat Zahut, a passport, and or a driving license. They'll want to check some of those details, basically just to ensure that it is you who is logging in. Once you have that, just make sure that your bank details are updated on the system so that as and when your eligibility is confirmed, they can pay you directly straight into your bank account, and it should appear pretty quickly. Obviously, as I said, we're waiting for the criteria and the full details, so we'll update that as and when. The other point that I wanted to mention at this stage is that various leniencies have been given and deferments have been given for various taxes. So, for example, VAT for anyone who's on 2-monthly reporting has been delayed. The February report, which should have been in the middle of March, has been delayed till the 26th of April, if I'm not mistaken. The Bituach Leumi payment for anyone who is self-employed for March, which is paid in April, has been delayed by a month. Seemingly, that means that your payments in May will be double, obviously, assuming that things get back to some sort of normalcy and they don't have extra deferments. But at least the April payment won't come out and you'll be able to have that money in your pocket for Pesach. One last tip that I want to give, especially for those who are self-employed, it's worthwhile looking at whether the mikdamot level, the estimated payments that you're paying both for income tax, that's Mas Haknasa or Bituach Leumi, are at a level that makes sense given whatever forecast you can possibly make at the current time. It's definitely possible. Those he also mentions a possibility of refunding some of the payments that were made for January and February. Again, I haven't seen full details or finalized amounts, but that's to come in due course. Okay, I think that's it for now. I'll hand the floor back to Rivka.
Okay, thank you, Benjamin, for those tips. Very useful. I do want to add that someone asked me today if they should delay their payment for VAT and income tax, and I was like, you have the money and it hasn't affected your business. Like, this is here to help the people that need the help. And I was like, I don't know why you'd want, like, it sounds nice to do it later, but like, you need to pay it anyway. So I don't know, I advise them actually to just pay it now, but just know that that option is there. So now what we want to do is we want to take questions. You have the chat box, as I said, at the side. We'd love to hear your questions. How, you know, what are your thoughts during this time? What sort of financial questions do you have? And then we will answer them. The question I see, one of the questions I see, I think everyone sees in a chevra, so as not to pay US Social Security. I'm employed by my chevra. Will I be eligible for assistance? Benjamin, would you be able to address that question? I know a lot of people that own companies are asking.
Absolutely. At present time, unfortunately, no, not that I'm aware of anyway, no allowances or grants have been announced for such situations. Why that's different from a self-employed person, I can't tell you. But at present, somebody who's the owner of a company who is salaried by that company cannot get unemployment benefit if they are not going to draw a salary. They seemingly won't be eligible for the self-employment grant. It remains to be seen what other things would be given to other people. We wait and see. One of the interesting things actually that Moshe Kachlon said in his speech last night was that if there are sectors of society who feel that they haven't been addressed, then they will try and do that. And seemingly, this is a significant portion of the population who would seemingly be negatively affected or are not being helped. And I'm sure something will come up in due course, but at the present, I'm afraid I haven't got any good news to give you on that one.
There definitely is a feeling, though, that the government does want to help and does want to push money into the economy, into that cycle of if I spend on your business, you'll spend on the next person's business and it will go around. There is that feeling, so there is hope possibly for them to do something.
Definitely, but of course, until things are actually announced, it's difficult to say what that's going to look like, how much, when, etc.
Okay, I'll get a question about insurance ring. You'll be answered that directly because it's a very specific question. How does someone know if their business is eligible, whether it's a patur or any kind of business for the grant? So once again, as Benjamin said, the details that are out are not final, they leaked. So let's wait for the details to be final. I will update the article when they are, and we'll post links so that you can apply yourself and see if you're eligible. Do we have any other questions? Okay, Danny, do you have anything to add before we get off? Anything to sum up?
So, so someone's actually just written a question now. Don't know if that's irrelevant, but so that's a question. Maybe Benjamin wants to address that first. There's a question just come in.
Oh, minimum revenue to be eligible if you're an ESEC patur for the grant.
Well, again, they haven't announced the details. What was leaked today was that you have to have started your business before the end of February 2019. Essentially, the tax office, as I understand it at least, want to be able, you need to essentially be able to prove to them, or at least declare to them, that your business is suffering compared to a year ago, and therefore only people who have set up their business in the last over a year ago would be eligible for this grant. Again, that's what they're talking about at the moment. Is that fair? Again, I'm sure there are plenty of people who closed down what they were doing previously in a couple of months. Why should they be affected? Good question, but as at the moment, because it was so unclear and haven't addressed every single situation, and never going to address every single situation, it's a bit difficult to give any hard and fast rules at the moment. But in terms of the income limits, again, what they seem to imply is you have to have been earning at least 2,000 shekel profit a month, and capped at 20,000 shekel a month in order to be eligible for the grant.
There's a question now, if they're eligible based on total income or net income. Benjamin, would you be able to answer that?
So it's a bit of a from what I saw in these leaks, and I'm a little reticent to start giving full details because we simply don't have them. But from what I saw is that it's a combination. It's going to be a combination of self-employment income and total family income from all sources. In other words, the government aren't necessarily looking to help people who have other sources of income, passive income from rental properties or from investments. That's not who they're looking to. They're looking to help the people who simply haven't got the money, who haven't got the cash flow. So it does seem to be some sort of combination of the two.
Okay, if you're on an unemployment, are you allowed to do small jobs on the side to make up your loss?
No.
Okay. I'm going to unmute Debbie, who has asked to be unmuted and would like to ask a question. Debbie Zoberman, you are unmuted, yes, and you can ask your question.
Great, thank you very much. Although I actually think that Benjamin just answered it in his previous answer. I'm asking actually for my husband, who was an Atzma'i since November 2018, and I just, government is concerned, I am the Ben Zug Rashum and and I wondered, just said that it's going to be, they're going to be looking at family income, so I'm guessing that it doesn't make a difference that it's that way.
It shouldn't make a difference from my understanding. But that being said, if both spouses are self-employed, they're both potentially eligible. No, again, looking at the overall family criteria. It shouldn't make a difference. It shouldn't make a difference.
I'm an employee of his company, but in 2018 I was unemployed. So it's complicated.
Again, specifics would need to be looked at in
I'll wait till we get the real details. Thank you.
Exactly.
Okay, if someone owns a car and an apartment, would they still be eligible for these grants? So I think we're repeating the same idea that we don't know all the details yet. Unless Benjamin has something else to add to that, I don't think we know that yet. Is that correct?
No, it does. It doesn't seem to be. It doesn't seem to be asset based. It seems to be income based only.
Okay, and I think last question: do we have any info on the eligibility and being eligible for U.S. citizens for the U.S. grant? So none of us are U.S. tax advisors. I saw a post, unless either Danny or Benjamin have what to add. I saw a post by CPA Josefa Huber, I think yesterday, where she was talking about the rights. I can find the link and share it with you.
Nothing to add there. There's one other thing for Atzmaim, something that's if an Atzma'i has had to actually close down their business completely, and as one of the last resorts, there is the ability, which was announced or confirmed today, that they can take up to, I think it's up to a third, depending on the level of contributions, of their pension contributions as a kind of pitsuim. So that is something which is open. Obviously, that will impact future pension, but should there be an Atzma'i who's completely closed their business down, and they feel that they need to access quite quickly some finance resources, so through their pension, if which they should have set up, because since 2017, Atzmaim are required to set up a pension. So as part of that regulation that came into place in 2017, Atzmaim can take up to a third, and that I saw a document today that was circulating in the insurance forums that that can be done.
Thank you for sharing that. One thing I always say about Israel is that as much as people unfortunately complain about you know, things being tight sometimes or whatever, and we really try and help people go forward, one thing I can say is that people generally have assets. They have value in their house sometimes, they have pension funds, they may have Keren Hishtalmut. And at times like this, if someone does need to pull from assets, check out what you have, know what you have, so that if you do need something, you can pull from those assets. I think we're going to wrap up now. I just want to say thank you to everyone for joining, and to Danny and Benjamin as a team for coming out and us getting behind the screen rather than being hidden behind the screen, being on camera. Kol hakavod to you both, and we're here if anyone has any questions. We're here to help at any point, and have a good evening and good luck.
I would just add that they can private message us as well if there's something as well they're not comfortable about, or there's a question that you want to put to the group as well. Feel free to private message either Rivka, myself, or Benjamin. We'll be happy to answer, and we'll be happy to post anonymously on your behalf as well.
Thank you. Yes. Okay, have a good evening.
Be well.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.